Get ready, viewers. A rant is about to happen.
I don't think we ever think about diversity in books unless we're part of a minority group. And I'm wondering, like, aren't we getting bored yet? Aren't we bored of reading about the same demographics in our characters? When I was in middle school, I read a lot of Sarah Dessen, for example. She's fairly formulaic. They're kind of exactly like, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, they fall in love, blah, blah, blah. I remember having such an incredibly hard time remembering which characters went with which storyline, or differentiating the characters. And I wonder how much of that is because they're essentially the same person with minor personality changes, minor hobby changes, and, like, different colored hair. I'm wondering what would happen if we introduced some more diverse qualities into those characters. Let's face it, for the majority of these books, much like the majority of our population, the characters are white, upper, middle, socioeconomic status, they're heterosexual, they're cisgender, and part of my frustration is because I identify with the queer community, and I'm not seeing people like me in books. And yeah, there are books out there written about people like me, but I have to go to a very specific genre. That's not the greatest thing in the world. I would like to be able to read a book in the mainstream where there's the character who's like me, just out there. I just recently read this book called Am I Blue, which is a compilation of short stories written by a wide array of authors. It was written in the 90s, so it's a little bit dated, and it only focuses on lesbian gay characters, but there is some diversity in terms of, different socioeconomic status, different races, different ethnicities. So that was cool. Why haven't I seen another book like that? Young adult authors right now kind of rule the world. Like, John Green is skyrocketing. It would be really awesome if we could see someone like John Green, someone like the woman who wrote The Hunger Games, someone like J.K. Rowling band together in this massive tour de force and write a bunch of short stories that have people of color, that have people with disabilities, that have people with a queer orientation just living, doing normal short story stuff, falling in love, or, conquering that algebra exam, taking the GRE. Someone can do that for me. Like, write a story about that. It's an amazing adventure. I think the first exposure I got to diversity was through Amelia Atwater Rhodes, who in one of her books had a lesbian couple, I think, and Tamora Pierce, who has people of color in some of her books, and she has some queer couples. So the first time I was like, oh, about people who identified that way. I had no exposure to diversity. I didn't even know Ellen DeGeneres was gay. No clue. I didn't watch her show. Aside from that, the only exposure I got to queer people was the lesbians getting married on Friends. If we don't write about it, especially for the book kids of the world, with that absence, there's never going to be acceptance. What I want to see is Am I Blue to happen in this decade. I want to see people in this world who have all the power right now over the young generation to band together and kind of take over the world through their writing and influence people to see diversity more, to appreciate it, to make it known but not tokenize it. And I know that's a huge thing to ask of people, but I also don't think it's completely out of bounds. This is kind of inspired by the thing I'm seeing on Tumblr right now, the We Need Diverse Books movement. So this is my rant, and I prepared you. If you're interested in writing about diverse issues, please do. But think about what you're doing when you're writing, and really look at it. And don't just look at for the blatant stereotypes, look for the microaggressions. Microaggressions being little things that you don't really think are offensive, but actually are. They're like paper cuts. So one time I was at a bar dancing with a girl, and some random girl came over and was like, oh my god, you guys are so cute. Oh, that's not cool. You wouldn't go up to a straight couple and be like, oh my god, you guys are so cute. You'd back the hell off. This person felt like they had enough confidence in their heterosexual privilege to come up to me and who I was with and tell us that we were cute, that we were brave to be out in a straight club dancing. Like, no. Authors of the world, do something. Be diverse. Break away from this boring stretch of white, upper, middle class, heterosexual, able-bodied characters that we have. Write something that's outside the mold, because it'll get noticed. And if it's not noticed by the minority will notice. We'll get there. Progress happens. It takes small steps, but we'll get there. Go forth. Be thoughtful. Pay attention to your impact, regardless of your intent, and do something awesome.